I'm sorry, Mrs. McCarroll, and she's absent. Mr. Valentine. And we have a quorum.
All righty. So, old business. Do we have any old business at hand?
Trying to find somebody to write grants or see what, but it looks like, being we got $15 million all of a sudden this week that we found out about, somebody's writing grants for it already, so we need to get up the page on what's being done already before we can move forward.
Was that,
Somebody needs to come in here and tell us what's going on.
was that grant money or was that state
Shed money.
funded money?
What it is Watershed initiative money?
Or a grant, I mean, something, I don't know.
Yeah, it's not part of the watershed, huh?
Thought it came off their webpage.
What's the name of the grant?
I didn't have it, I've been busy the last 2 days, I didn't get it printed out for me. Thomas, you got it? What the 15 million is for?
Mr. Duncan? do you-
Yes, sir.
Is that for from the Watershed Initiative to 15
Yes, it
million?
is.
Yeah,
Governor Edwards announced 15 projects statewide, much of which was the drainage cleaning and ditch cleaning in Livingston Parish. There was a map of that. Yeah, that was Watershed Initiative money.
Is there a map that certain work has to pertain to?
There was a map associated with that grant. It wasn't
Come up to
on
the,
website, as I
to the
recall.
mic, please.
Yeah, can you come to that
Come up to
mic?
the mic.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Hi, Glenn Duncan, now with Quality Engineering. Yes, there is a map associated with the grant. I do not know who applied for that money, but to remind you, the State Watershed Initiative has two portions of money that's going to be given away through the life of the thing. So it's 1.2 billion. Roughly 60% of that will be given out at the state level by the State Commission on projects that are deemed noteworthy, state-worthy projects. That's, the first round was just announced by Governor Edwards. That was the 15 million, I believe, for Livingston and other regions. 40% of that is going to come up from the regions. And those are all the projects, I gave you a list once, all the projects that were submitted by this region. Those are now under consideration. And that's the round one full application. So those are out there as well.
Go ahead.
So the state
Sorry,
money,
yeah.
the states can decide what projects get.
Yeah, the commission, and I'm presuming the governor may have some say-so on that, but the whole project is run by the Louisiana Watershed Commission. That's the heads of the various agencies that governor appointed. Pat Forbes of Office of Community Development, Department of Transportation Development, I think Chris Knott sits on it, the Coastal Regional Protection Authority, and a couple of others. I'm
So is
sorry, I
that
don't
going to be
remember.
program-specific funding, or is it going to be like a blanket?
My understanding is each region from now on, as I mentioned the last time, has a regional steering committee. That regional steering committee for this region will be the first body to forward up to the state commission projects in its region that it believes is worthy of money. Okay. In addition to that, various organizations, I presume, are approaching that commission and saying, look, this could be a big enough project for that 60% state grant. So it's kind of like all one pot of money, but the state commission gives out these larger projects, 60% of the money, and then these regions are trying to get 40% down into the regions. And the first round, money was actually dedicated, $5 million per region for those small projects.
But it's my understanding that that 15 million is strictly for debris removing and no widening of ditches, just strictly what they've been doing, cleaning out.
The map I saw and the description I saw, that was very
That's
close
all
to what
it's-
it was, is
yeah, there was
cleaning and clearing
no
drainage.
mitigation or any excavation.
I didn't see any construction, I didn't see any addition to pumps. I saw the map, it looked like just various ditches were outlined and canals were outlined for clearing.
It's just additional money for what they've been doing. So
When this money is awarded out, it's going to the parish.
I don't know when the check's written, so to speak.
Well, who's it like go to?
I'm presuming it goes to the parish
The
leadership.
parish leadership.
Yeah, the administration
And they
typically.
decide basically who gets it, that kind of thing. Who, you know.
I don't know, and I'm sorry I don't know this, but because the grant was awarded based on the outlines of these various projects, and there is a map associated with it, the presumption is it goes to that. I don't know what flexibility the parish has in reallocating or altering a bid based on new data or new information.
How do we find out what that is?
I can't find it on my phone here real quick, but the project is posted on the website. The maps in association with it are posted on the Louisiana Watershed website. There's a map of the various,
Yeah, it's like 125 miles of waterways,
Well-
but which ones is?
This is my other question is, do you know the list that the parish gave or something
Yes.
like that? Where did that, study or that list come from? Like, where do they get, say, you know, we need this section of creek or that kind of thing?
Okay.
Because,
I can give you the history behind that. So when the state announced this money was coming down, many people across the state realized we better line up to get this money. Let's see what projects we have in our area. So while the state was trying to determine what the commission's role was and get the commission established and getting the applications and all that, people were already dusting off projects and going, we need it, we need it, we need it. So my conclusion was all the projects that were sent up in what was called the pre-application phase were existing projects that folks knew about. Some of them might have been pre-engineered already, some had worked because you got extra points for pre-engineering when they were scored. So they just dusted off whatever projects were around and they made their way up the ladder. The commission looked at all of those pre-applications and then deemed a certain portion of them worthy for the final application. That's the list I handed out when I talked to you the last time.
Yeah.
Projects that were deemed worthy of final. Now, whether the parish has completed the final application on all of those, I do not know.
oh, I was just curious because, I asked, for something to be sent out to, you know, get information on all the municipalities and stuff like that.
Right.
What they have presented or what they have spent money on
Right.
in the past, and we haven't got any kind of reply
No,
back.
and that was March 16th that
Yeah.
those letters went out.
So it's kind of, you know, if we're gonna work together as a parish to get something done, we need the information instead of just playing, you know, favorites.
My only observation to that is the watershed projects and applications and how that is being managed is fairly transparent for you to jump into that website and learn all you can. Call the commissioners up, call your Regional 7 committee up, attend the Regional 7 committee meetings. In fact, I noticed there's a Region 7 committee. That meeting is also posted on the website. I'll sit back in a minute and try to find that date for you if you want.
Yeah.
And so that information is ready for you to harvest. Who actually sent all the projects up was just about any government agency that felt like they had jurisdiction was allowed to send something up. So a lot of those projects came from drainage districts, some of them came from cities, some of them came from I mean, everybody that had a project
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw.
went ahead and moved it up. And I asked a question of the chairperson of the Watershed Commission, Mr. Pat Forbes, and I asked him this because I just didn't understand that everything was supposed to be based on watershed planning and regional watershed planning, just like I mentioned to y'all. Yet all of these projects were around long before that theory came out. And so I asked him, how is it that you're reconciling the fact that you want regional water-based planning, but you've already asked for projects and you're giving points for projects that have been pre-scored? He said, we're just gonna have to sort that out on the back end. So I think you can draw the conclusion that of all the pre-applications that are out there, they approved those for final that were as close as could be to projects that affect a region in some way.
Well,
Yeah.
we're burning too much administration money. We need to quit. I mean, we're chasing one thing, they're chasing one thing, they're chasing one thing. That's why we had, what's the next thing on the agenda is the Cooperative Agreement, where everybody can get together on one issue. Everybody has their little different issues, but the ones like that are good. We need to know what is going on. I mean, being we're with the parish, somebody with the parish needs to come in and tell us what's already going on, if we're gonna be reporting to the parish.
Mhm.
I don't know if it's Layton or one of whoever's over that.
Mr. Kistler will probably be who that would come.
My understanding is Mr. Kistler is still y'all's representative, Livingston Parish representative on the Region 7 Watershed Committee.
Yes.
So he would be a good guy to call about that.
Okay.
Right.
Get him at the next meeting,
Yeah, we need, definitely need him at the next meeting.
so we can quit spinning circles.
Yes.
Now, you didn't ask me this, but I do want to make sure I'm cautious about this. The Louisiana Watershed Initiative is going to drive the cart for a while because it's such a big pile of money.
But there's other stuff.
But that's not the only game in town, right?
Yeah.
So that's something to keep
yeah.
in mind. I happen to specialize in it, so I presented it to you, but I don't want to tell you that's the only game in town.
What's the percentage of the 1.2 billion that has to be spent in, say, this area because that's where the money came? It's the reason why we got the money
Okay.
because
The early announcement was 40% of the money would be divided by the regions. 60% would be allocated by the state for large state projects. Now, some of that money could end up in your parish, as it just did, right?
Wasn't we one of 10 parishes that got the higher percentage of money because of circumstances here?
I don't know if it was that way. FEMA, as you know, after any major flood event, if a disaster is large enough, FEMA will hand money down with the stipulation that it goes to and I believe I'm saying this correctly, the most affected areas. Okay, so it's up to the state to outline those most affected areas. And it did. During the 2016 flood, there were, I believe, 15 parishes that were outlined as parishes most affected.
Livingston Parish.
However, when the Louisiana Watershed Initiative money came available, the state of Louisiana made the argument that it really would benefit the entire state, and may we please take that money and spread it out over the state. I don't know that there was ever an agreement or decision that said a larger portion will go to the parishes most affected. I don't know that answer that question, I'm sorry.
I believe I was in a meeting with Gary Grower, at a meeting
Yes.
he was speaking, and he mentioned something
Okay.
to that effect.
There you go.
But
Those things are out of my knowledge.
But I don't know that it was watershed money in
Mhm.
particular. It could have been
Mhm.
federal money
Mhm.
somehow.
I do know, like anything, when there's $1.2 billion out there, people aren't, everybody that feels like they're worthy is probably looking for ways to influence those decisions, and calling their congressmen or their representatives and stuff. That's still a very real means by which you all can gain information is the people that are, in the middle of those conversations.
All right. Thank you, Mr.
Mhm.
Green.
thank you all.
Item 3B, discussion, wait,
3.
Yeah, go 3A.
3A, Cooperative Endeavor
I'm
Agreement.
ready to vote.
All right, Mr. Howes, I'm gonna let you have the floor.
All right, Cooperative Endeavor Agreement is something that kind of shot off after our little summit educational thing we all attended. Some of us attended, some of us didn't make it. But it was trying to put together something to cover the I-10 from the west side to the east side, and would get somebody working diligently on getting more flow underneath there, because it definitely held the water back a lot, the interstate, the dam, the levee, whatever you want to call it, the hill, the travelable hill, whatever you want to call it. But it blocked water from going south,
The wall.
the wall. Well, not the wall, there's no wall, and Holden out there and Tickfaw River backed up too. But it still had to get over the road before it got out of there. So, that was up till yesterday or whatever when we started having some little kickbacks on the Cooperative Endeavor Agreement, which I still think I personally think it's a good deal if we got somebody working on that. They got $15 million for the canals and everything already from this thing this week, but that's just for snagging. Everything I read is strictly snagging. We need to get these openings widened, some more culverts under it. We need to work on some other extensions, not just cleaning.
Who all would be involved in this?
Well, they had it as drainage 1, drainage 2, drainage 5, and the
City of-
parish council, and the city, parish that lives it or whatever, the non-incorporated areas.
Yeah. it
And they had
said Walker in
City of
that.
Walker's in it,
Yeah.
but I was told they decided not to
Uh,
do it because they got some of their own stuff going on, so. But, they use the same engineer that the parish uses, so they're working on the same, they probably know more than what we know about what's already being done because we're not getting information, so. But I still think it'd be a good deal to recommend them to do it, because we already got money for drainage, let's go let this other person chase some ways to get more flow underneath it, so.
So explain to us what a cooperative endeavorment agreement would do. What would be the reason for needing that?
Because drainage 1, drainage 2, drainage 5, why would you pay the same? Why would you pay Quality, why would you pay Al Fairman, why would you pay Fort LaBlada to do the same thing, to reinvent it 3 times? When you got 3 different entities.
So it would allow each one of these entities to work cooperatively with each other and not duplicate
Correct.
getting the
And
information.
spend the fund, whatever the funding is, you split it instead of just one person sucking up all the expense.
You can share equipment, things like that too, can't you? No.
These projects are gonna be big enough, it's all gonna be contracted out. It's not
So
gonna
it's
be.
not an issue.
Yeah, that's one thing that we
That's
took
what I
out
was
of the
gonna ask
cooperative.
you.
That one has, that's the original right? Drainage 2 already asked for some changes, City of Denham asked for changes, and I know Drainage 5 asked for some changes. So that's why, but they stopped on it when these other people started backing out until they see if we wanna move forward, still move forward with it. But the equipment thing is kinda obsolete, because it's gonna be contracted out to independent. It's not gonna be, you can't expect Livingston to pull all their equipment in there,
Right.
Drainage 5 to do all theirs, Walker, everybody to do it. It's gonna be, these projects should be big enough, it's subcontracted out.
Good.
So, where it can get done, get gone, not
Drag on.
drag on, so. My recommendation is still go to council, tell them it's good, whether they accept it or not accept it.
Any
So
questions?
create
from-
another committee, basically?
Nope, it's not a committee, it's just it's already written by Quality. Quality is heading it up, the CA, already been started.
Why can't the 3 big firms work together as it is? Why does there have to be something drawn up for them?
Just legality,
Yeah, that's all.
because Drainage 1's getting their tax from Denham, why are they letting their money go to something else?
It's
To
not
5?
for the firms, it's for the drainage districts, it's for districts 1, 2, 5, the city of Walker and the non-incorporated areas of the parish. It's for all of those entities to work with somebody and not hire each one independently to do the same work.
So all of Livingston would
Pretty
work
much.
together, not one little section?
Correct.
Okay.
And it's strictly for the interstate crossings. Now, just 5 still has some other projects we're gonna get our engineer to go chase on their own, but it has nothing to do with any of the rest of the area, so it's gonna be its own writing. It's not like it's gonna be duplicated somewhere else. It's gotta have its own engineering, its own everything.
So this agreement, it's not for everything that 1, 2, 5, it's not for everything that they would do, like in day-to-days or whatever. It's specifically for the interstate I-12
Like
work.
a prime example, Drainage 2 doesn't even touch the interstate nowhere. They're 5 miles from it or more, but all their water has to go underneath it. So that's why they kind of listed on it. So, but like I said, there's multiple other projects for your normal engineers to be chasing on this watershed as well. So,
Basically, all these entities, if they can't work together on the interstate in some kind of agreement, what are we even doing with any kind of drainage plan? They don't want to, share stuff or do anything in that capacity because somebody wants to play favorites. The people who live in the parish don't want that. Do they have time for it? Does anybody really want to say that's the reason why I'm flooded next time?
I agree with you.
That's,
Well, here,
it's, I don't know who it is, but people need to work together.
absolutely, I think everybody needs to work together. That's what I've been saying the whole time, is the greenhorn on the crew. But, who's making sure, like, if we're adopting this watershed deal, who is it that's making sure the town of Walker isn't messing it up or creating another drainage system problem, if we, as a group here, are supposed to say the whole parish is supposed to be draining like this into here, but Walker's not cooperating, or Denham, or Albany, or French Sutton, or whoever, they're doing their own thing, how do we know they're not damming up or creating a different flow into where the water's supposed to be flowing from?
That's what the engineers have to show where, if they're moving water from here, they gotta show what it's gonna do when it goes somewhere else. It's just like, I mean, prime example right by your house, the 3 culverts. After they paved a brand new highway, they went and dug it up 2 months later, because money came from somewhere else.
Mm-hmm.
They had to document, when they made those culverts bigger, that the flow underneath wasn't gonna damage somebody a quarter mile down the river, down there. So they have to know where the water's going, where they're taking the water and where it's going to make sure it's not gonna affect minimal.
Could this interstate thing lead to more parish-wide cooperation for
Hopefully.
drainage?
Hopefully.
That would be the goal.
I mean, kind of teach everybody how to play well together. You know,
But-
'cause-
I mean, prime example, nobody knew where 15 million come from. All of a sudden, 2 weeks ago, all this CEA stuff is flying, and then all of a sudden, money shows up. So how did we not know where that was coming from, or that it was even out there?
and who's gonna make, you said District 5 is 5 miles away from interstate,
2.
District 2, who's gonna make them cooperate and play nice on the playground?
They don't have to. If they don't sign it, they're not in on it. So they really don't have to sign it. I mean, 1 and 5 can sign together, or whoever don't sign, you just take their name out of it. And then if it's in their area, we just pull back.
Can the parish council make everybody sign?
That
Because,
was my question.
I mean, the whole purpose is to come together as a parish, and if people can say, no, let them deal with it down there. So I'm keeping my money up here.
As far as I understand, it's not the council's choice.
But the council.
It's the president's choice.
The council can't, like,
All they can
pass
recommend.
legislation or anything.
They can
to
recommend, and all they
change
can
that.
do, from what I understand.
But they can't make anything. Okay.
Their hands are tied, I think, on this. But it's just crazy.
So there's no way to make the whole parish work together to help the whole parish. There's nothing the council can do or nothing like that. So, I mean, we can all vote and tell them, hey, this is great, but if people don't want to play on the playground, if they would still want to be mean on the playground, they still get to be mean.
So
They can explain it after the
The
next flood.
homeroom charter allows that.
They can
so-
explain it after the next flood. We
Yeah.
flirted with it last week. You know, we just didn't have it in the
Yes.
that heavy rain in the northern part of the shed. So they flirted with it.
Yeah, I flooded in last week. so-
Yeah, so did I.
I mean, we have the process in place for it to be able to make, hey, this is what we decided to do, you have to do it. But it's not always enforced. So the council passes a resolution or presents a resolution, and they don't always, okay, the parish president's office, they don't always do what the council says to do. I mean, the majority of the time, I think they work together, but I mean, if it's something that the parish president finds, hey, well, I got a different way that this needs to happen, I mean, I believe he can decide that.
You can overrule them in the homeroom charter. That's part of the problem with the homeroom charter, the way it's written. When one man's making a decision over all these chairs full, somebody, till we change it, we stuck with it, so. But I still think we should go recommend more to the council and let them recommend it, or, I mean, is anybody against the cooperative ever agreement?
No.
No.
I'm not against it, I just want it to be known publicly that I wish there was a way to make everybody in the parish work. I mean, that's what we're here for,
That is
to
the
figure out how to
sole
drain
purpose.
Livingston Parish.
Well, that's what the cooperative agreement, the cooperative agreement is, quality, is written by Quality, they started it, or that's who's headed out District 1. They're gonna have to go to the other districts and get with their engineers or what the projects are and what's already going on. So what we have and what we don't have. They can't do the full, they cannot do it all by themselves, do all the work, legwork, without going to the other entities to get their input and their part. So,
Still, we figure out a way to make everybody in the parish work together, I mean, that's just gonna be the same words I keep repeating. I don't know how to do it. I'm not, like I said, I'm the,
Look, we've got different people that run lateral ditches and then.
Road ditches and.
I mean, we can't even get one crew of people to,
in the past.
in the present.
In the
In
present.
the past and in the present, because everybody kept saying we can't.
Well, that's not my ditch, is the excuse I always get when I call, well, that's a lateral. Well, it runs the opposite way to the lateral you told me 3 weeks ago that was a lateral. I mean, so which one's which?
Yeah.
Okay, so where do we move on from here?
Call a vote.
We'll take a vote for it.
Yeah.
I make a motion that we go in front of the council with our recommendation, all we can do is recommend. So, we go in front of the council tomorrow night recommending that they look into this cooperative endeavor agreement a little more into it, so.
So we have a recommendation from Mr. Howes
A second.
to,
So no, motion.
to go into a cooperative endeavor agreement with the, present this to the parish council at their next meeting, which is tomorrow, the 22nd. So he's made a motion for that.
A second.
You want to call for, do we need to vote for this
Yeah,
or?
you can call for this. So, and you're gonna make a recommendation to the council that they join the cooperative endeavor agreement?
That they,
Is that what you're recommending?
that they recommend to.
That they present,
That they
I thought it was
present
to
and
adopt
recommend
it.
to
Yeah.
their,
adopt it, whatever.
whoever's making the call.
Okay, and, so with property drainage districts 1, 2, 5 in the city of Walker, for the, what's the,
And
for
the
the
co- and the
purpose of
parish-
what, Interstate 12 drainage
Crossing,
improvements?
water, drainage crossings. We can get you an old version, but it's not, it's gonna be rewritten, so
Yeah.
it's kind of,
Okay. You want me to call Mr. Moore?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, Mr. Muller?
I vote yes.
Yes. Mr. Clemens is absent. Ms. Shaw?
Yes.
Mr. Ross?
yes.
Mr. Harrell?
Yes.
Mr. McMorris?
Yes.
Mr. Valentine?
Yes.
Motion
I think what Stephen said something, we need, there has to be some kind of oversight, like if somebody's doing a project on their own, they need to have an engineer or somebody on the outside to okay that, so it don't affect somebody, you know, down the road or whatever. Because everybody's got problems, with all that rain came last time, I'm sure y'all, people up there flooded, we still have a lot of water down there that won't go out.
Yeah.
But there has to be some oversight, but we need to all try to work together. You need to get some kind of outside engineer, somebody to say, if you do this, it's gonna work.
Correct.
Well, to build on what Ron was saying, is there any way we can meet with the administration to find out where we start, to work together, to get past some of this? Because for me, this is the most frustrating part.
Right.
I feel like we're spinning our wheels.
We need to get somebody with the parish who seemsly has the most input in this right now to speak to us of what they got in the works.
Yes.
Because we're supposed to be finding projects and finding somebody to do it. If they're just gonna flat out tell us who's gonna be doing the grant, why are we here doing this?
Right.
Flat out, basically, the group got together after the summit, a few people talked. I'm one of the chairmen of Drainage 5. I did discuss part of it. They chose who they decided to get to write it. All I agreed to, I didn't tell them who to use, who not to use, whatever. But I did agree that it would be a good deal. It would be something good to happen. So, and that's where we came, and this is where we at. It's not the best phase, not the worst phase.
No.
It's a start. All it is a start.
And pretty timely.
To working together.
That's a good thing.
It was a damn good time, like.
Yeah. I'm
Great.
impressed, actually.
But exactly just like the one you're reading right there. Certain
Right.
things were just thrown in there. It's like, oh yeah, this is not gonna work after
But
people
you
read
gotta
it and looked
start
at
somewhere.
it. But
Right.
everybody's got their input back. So as far as I know, it hasn't, they put a stop to it whenever they got calls that certain ones wasn't gonna sign it. So they wanted to see if it's still gonna go, so.
It almost doesn't make sense to me why you wouldn't want to be involved with it if you could get everybody on the same page. I mean, to me, that doesn't make sense.
Who's gonna present tomorrow night?
So, I'll be there. And
I'm gonna be there tomorrow night just to, I can talk or he can talk, it doesn't matter.
Can one of y'all ask them, do y'all think it would be important to ask them about somebody having some oversight? I mean, if these independent people that don't want to participate, it doesn't have to be for this. I feel like,
For everything.
I feel like, you know, we as a parish need to adopt. And if that means that Mr. Marler being our chairman and Walker's chairman in District 1 and 5 and 8 and 20 and whoever else, everybody's calling a shot somewhere for somebody with drainage.
Or lack.
Everybody gets together and says, we need some kind of oversight because, you know, I mean, everybody thinks their plan is the best. Everybody's gonna think that. But you can't have, everybody's gotta play the same game.
We all need to know what projects are going on too.
Right.
Exactly,
You know, you have to know what's happening.
exactly. And
If
Walker,
somebody has something, you know, a problem with it, they have to have their say.
and then what if, just, I said Walker because you said Walker earlier. Let's say Walker's doing a project and the town of Livingston's doing a project and they're overlapping somehow. They don't even know that because nobody's communicating and talking.
Great.
You know, just, anyway, what's your thoughts on that?
come to Mike if you have any. Either one of y'all.
Either one of
We'd
you.
like to.
I don't know who this is, so I didn't ask him, but.
I'll give you my observations, and I'll try to keep opinions out of this. The observations, number one, are how engineering firms are chosen and selected. They're chosen by bodies that have the authority to do that, whether it's a gravity drainage district number 1 or number 2 or number 5, or whether it's a police jury or whether it's a mayor. Typically what will happen is that entity will define the scope of the project it requires. So therefore, it's only looking at projects or problems in their area of jurisdiction, and will often hire an engineering company to say, look at our district, you tell us what seem to be the priority. Is that pre-engineering studies done, or that assessment is done, or that flood management plan is done, or whatever? Then that entity looks at the cost and the ideas and determines, okay, we need to do this, and then we'll hire an engineering company to do that. That's a completely separate process than what's going over in this district or this body, right?
We know how that is.
Now,
that's
now
the
if
one.
if they're overlapping, I have seen bodies reach to one another and say, look, here's an overlapping project. Can we cooperate on that? Those are my observations, that people who sit on boards are serving their constituency, as that's how they're set up.
Yeah, that's right.
Prime example of how cooperative endeavor agreement works is, we just did one with Drainage 1, 5, and State of Louisiana, DPW, whatever. Thomas was part of it. Where they just built the new car station at Juban, the car lot on the
Nissan.
east side, Nissan.
Yeah.
That is the border of 1 and 5. The ditch is on the border. So we had to get 1 to dig from there to there, 5 to dig from here to here, and the state said they weren't gonna do anything, but we give y'all a permit, y'all can do what y'all want. We accept what y'all do, we're just not doing the work. So if it's gonna drain your people and you wanna dig it, go with it. That's what a cooperative endeavor agreement is, between different entities.
So what'd y'all decide?
But we did, this project's done already. I'm just saying, I was trying to explain what
As
Yeah,
a,
cooperative
good.
endeavor agreement
as a
does.
drainage dummy, I would think, great, that's just a faster flow to me down in Marpole or wherever I live, with that being open. And so if I was in Marpole, I would, in Prince Settlement and the lower cities, I would say, you know what, let's band together, let's go try to find $200 million. We're gonna jack all our houses up. We don't care what y'all do up there, you can keep your money. You can threaten not to go to Bass Pro Shop, but the amount of money you send to Bass Pro ain't gonna make to the Hill of Beans in just a few towns.
Correct.
But again, how are we gonna work together?
So prime example, Ron, so we have parish roads and state roads. So look, we can have our parish ditches perfect, every one of them in the whole parish.
And they run to
But then when it would hit a state ditch, they would stop working at it.
Okay, they would, but he just got approval from the state,
Got a permit?
a permit
Correct.
to do the work.
So the permit
So
costs
But we're
money
spending the money
somewhere.
that
That's
you're,
fine.
but
But-
you're paying gas to ride on that state highway they should be digging their own ditch. We're not getting the fuel tax that they're still getting to
What I'm
keep their
saying
roads
is,
up.
we keep saying that it's a state road, why don't we just get a permit and do it ourselves?
Walker does. Walker has adopted all.
There you go. We got
State
a
roads.
bunch more roads than just Walker in the parish. What I'm saying
The
is,
city limits of Walker got funding, parish don't have, claims they don't
that's what I'm
have
saying.
funding.
So it's a
Everybody working
funding
together,
issue.
what did they do? Oh, that worked there, well, let's let the whole parish do that. You got a permit from the state, oh, well, look, Prince Settlement, let's get it, Frost, let's get it.
But they may not have the funding.
They not, Frost, I tell you what, Frost School doesn't generate, that little gas station there doesn't generate enough money to dig 2 ditches, much less the whole.
Even property tax,
Yeah.
they don't have any ad valorem taxes.
There's
out
no
that
big
way.
subdivisions down there, there's no property, yeah.
Again, the whole
It's
parish
rural.
working together.
It's rural, so.
My common thing.
I get what you're saying, I do.
I really do.
But that's not how it's set up right now.
Okay.
Is that or is that not what we're here for?
That
To
is
see how
what
things are set up and to recommend.
It is.
The
Correct.
change.
But just to give you an idea, drainage 1, 2, and 5 is within $200,000 budget a year. I didn't know that till we got to the summit, that we're all working within about $200,000 worth of money. If you took that money and split it across the parish, nothing would get done.
It's a drop in a bucket.
It's a drop in the bucket. It's just a fact. You go back, if we went to that, we'd go, when Drainage 5 started, they had a used skidder and a tractor. And that's what they started with. So the rest of the parish just got to start with something and see what it builds into.
Well, you can give us that scooter, that skidder,
We can
you
donate.
can donate it down and we'll just keep passing down. We'll use used stuff.
We can. That is legal. But no, most of it goes to the auction and is sold off. But yes, you can
Okay.
move it down. But they'd have to incorporate or do something. The parish as a whole right now is a parish. They already got a DPW. They got their works, public works.
I have a question. So how do we navigate all of this politics, state, local, parish, whatever, to actually get people? Since that is our role, in your opinion, like Mr. Duncan said, I want your opinion instead of just
We want your
fact here.
observation. not
Yeah,
your opinion.
observation, that's the good word.
Okay.
On how to
Observation.
do something.
How to do.
We know what the problems
Yes.
are.
We
My-
know what they
how
are.
do we do it?
Where do we start? So we're here
Well,
every
my
second
aggravation
So
Wednesday.
your
tonight-
observation, not
My-
aggravation.
My observation, aggravation that I walked in here with today was, we already have people writing grants for the parish. They're gonna tell us we got $250,000 to go find somebody to start writing grants. If they're gonna tell us who to write it, who's gonna do it, why are we here trying to figure out who's gonna do it? That's where I'm at right now tonight, straight up. If they got somebody writing them already and doing them,
Yeah.
why are we gonna try and find somebody else to copy what they're already doing?
Right.
They're
Or
doing it in
decide
top
what
secret.
they're gonna do it for, which was
Correct.
also part of that.
Yeah, because you gotta have the secret key to read theirs.
You gotta have a secret key to get into that.
We've been meeting for several months. He's presented well. We, as a board, have not suggested for anybody else. So I get what you're saying on that, but I also have to take up for the council on this one, because we haven't presented anyone else.
I've reached out to several people. and
I did
They've
too.
had
I did
schedule
too.
conflicts.
And
Yeah.
we also had letters sent
Yeah.
as well. And
Hey, if
we
they don't
did,
want the $250,000,
and
they can have it. I mean, if that's, you offer me $250,000, I'm gonna eliminate a schedule conflict.
Now,
That's minor
with
for-
with the money that y'all getting up there, are y'all solving the problems?
We're keeping them flowing.
Yeah.
I mean,
That's what I mean.
okay,
You still need more, but
Okay.
like to.
prime example is with that budget that we're running on, all we're doing is delimiting and shedding. There is still not enough money to
Right,
make,
that's what-
to buy, to do any mitigation. There's no money to do mitigation.
You are not
So,
solving the whole problem, you're still having people flooding up there, right?
correct, we're keeping them
Everywhere.
flowing to their max capacity that we can keep them
Right.
flowing at. That's where
Then
we are.
somebody digs a ditch and then the water goes down to the next community, the next person down. That's what happens even down in our area. Somebody that's got a little pool will get their ditch dug out. And then the water piles up on the next guy down there.
Well, there's a thing called beaver dams, we fight every day.
Right.
Because as soon as we get this one to draining, next week they found somewhere else to dam it up
Yeah.
at. and we just chase it around and around.
Right.
It just, there's nothing you can do about that.
No, you're
But-
trying.
But all we can do with the budget we have, which is way better than what we had 15 years ago when we started,
Right.
Oh, yeah.
is we're keeping the water flowing to the maximum we can keep it flowing with the budget we have.
Right.
That's just, I mean, that's, in prime example, working together, we go east till we hit our property line, and we just hit a wall that nothing's
That's
being
it.
done on.
It's their
The parish
turn.
limit is there. We can cross if we know that we're gonna do something, say on our south side, we hit east, middle, Coyell and all that. We can technically take it all the way to Coyell Bay legally, but but we don't have servitude there. So we have to get with the private landowners to get on their property, which is sometimes not gonna happen. So that's a whole nother legal expense, engineering expense, fight for 6 months, and they just said, I don't want you on my property. So
If any of them people flood, they'll let you on their property.
Yeah.
most of it's warehousers, so we don't have a big issue. So you deal with one person there, so most of the time, as long as there's no impact. As long as we buy the permits and we do that, what needs to be done, and all they gotta do is sign off saying y'all did with everything to the right way, we can get across it. But when we hit that east line, every lot behind his subdivision, prime example, behind his house, every lot is a different person you have to get okay from.
Yeah.
And then it depends on how far it goes, if we can even make it feasible to go to the next main drain.
That's a drainage servitude down behind my house, so.
Yes, but it's parish service drain.
And then the other side's warehouses, so I mean.
Yeah, but it stops right there, if I remember right.
And don't forget.
I think we all
wetlands.
That's
figured
just
out
us.
that the parish council couldn't do that, so that's why they appointed this committee to try to decide on, but we don't have any power.
Exactly.
You know, all we can do is recommend, right?
That's it. So,
Yeah.
and that's what we're gonna do tomorrow night, so,
And
I
there's
mean, we're
the,
beating that one dead in the horse, so.
there's the Corps of Engineers and wetlands and all that other stuff. So,
All right,
the
any-
issue.
either one of you out in the audience that we have, y'all have anything
Comments
to
on
add to
tonight?
what we've
Any
said?
observations?
Just been listening. I mean, I agree with what y'all been saying.
Very
It's
frustrating.
really hard.
Come to the
say.
microphone if you would, please.
I mean, it's Thomas without the Fairman's office, but like y'all was saying, I mean, like Stephen was saying, I mean, it's really hard to get, property owners, to agree to let the drainage districts on there and clean these ditches, or even to maintain them. That's one of the, and then like you were just saying a second ago, that the second biggest hurdle is getting the permission from the Corps of Engineers and paying for the permit fees and mitigation and all that. And I know that we talked about it, some of these grants can possibly, cover mitigation fees with that. And that's what we're hoping for too. That's what we're gonna try to pursue, is not only the project, but to cover the mitigation fees, because that can get up into the millions easily. Especially when wetlands are $75,000 an acre to mitigate.
Yeah, we got some large projects that's just been, we can afford to do the work, we can do the work.
Right.
We can't pay the mitigation costs. We already paid the engineer costs. We already know what needs to be done. We can't afford the $5.7 million mitigation.
Is there-
That does nothing for drainage.
is there a grant?
Mitigation is a joke.
Who's it
Oh,
go
it
to?
is.
Department credits.
Goes to personal.
What is that, the mitigation
landowners.
banks? They're private landowners,
Okay.
right?
There's a
And-
private landowner that sells you land that's already wetlands to leave it wetlands.
Well, no, it's not necessarily that though. I mean, in order to be a wetland bank, they would like you to take a piece of property that was wetlands years ago that somebody filled and not wetlands anymore. They want you to take that area and then turn it back into a wetland again. Or a field that's not wetlands, they want you to create a wetland bank out of it.
But still,
And it's,
cheap land that they bought.
yeah, exactly.
They buy 1,000 acres at 2,000 acre and they sell it to us for 7.
Do they ever make it wetlands again?
oh yeah, they have to.
They do.
They have to, and they have to keep it up. They have to maintain it as wetlands
years.
perpetually. I mean, they have to maintain it, and if the trees in it that they plant start dying, then they need to go and replace them.
Yeah, prime example, 63 right here, all that clearing on 63, if you've been down 63,
Right.
south of the interstate.
Yeah, part of the agreement with wetlands is once it becomes a wetland bank, it's perpetual. It can never be touched as
Can't be
or
built
filled
on,
again.
can't be-
Can't build on it, can't do anything with it. It's forever.
Well, that's a good
Well, I mean, it's forever until somebody
Until the right
decides to
po-
change
until the right
that.
person
Right.
comes around.
Until they write something else.
Right, until they
Well,
change
used
that
to-
law.
I mean, your prime example, your builder, we used to, when you bought land out, it was forever. Now it's 10 years. You gotta go buy it again. If you don't build on it within the 10 years, you gotta go buy it out of mitigation again.
Oh, yeah, you have that timeline.
Greystone's fighting that right now. I mean,
Yes, that's where I live.
they gotta go put dog houses on land so they show they built on it, so.
Yeah, sometimes the Corps lets you update your permits, you know, if nothing's changed, you can update it and get an extension for another 5 years or 10 years.
How much does that cost?
It's the updated, it's the environmental, engineer fees that you.
It still
pay to
shouldn't
have
matter.
updated.
Once you bought it, you should have bought it, so. All right.
That was those wetlands down by Flyo down there, Riverscape, and then Bruce's Harbor, by Kickfall.
The master plan, I guess we
They
just
filled
discussed.
all that in, and they bought some land somewhere else, I don't know where it is.
Yeah.
That was the mitigation for that.
Sometimes it's
But they filled all
something.
that, and then Bruce's Harbor flooded over there, Riverscape flooded in a big flood.
Everybody's flooded.
Well, I was on Tickfall River in '83, and it went over our countertops and we're 10 foot off the ground, so
Yeah.
that Bruce Harbor was gonna flood again anyway.
Yeah.
I mean, it flooded in '83, so. All right, there's actually less at where our camp flooded in '83 is less water in '16.
All right, do we have any other business? Get a motion?
Motion to adjourn.
Did I say yet that the whole parish needs to work together?
You said that?
Yeah, you made a motion for that.
I don't know if I said
like
that or not.
Everybody needs to work like adults.
Made a motion to adjourn, I second it.
Well, let's, do we need to discuss anything on the, master drainage plan?
We pretty much
We're
did.
not draining.
We pretty much did. We were talking about getting them to come in and tell us about the,
Okay,
If they already got
I just wanna
some
make sure we
drainage.
cover that.
yeah,
So, do we have a motion?
Motion to adjourn.
second.
Thank
Any nays? Thank you, Mr. Duncan, for showing up. Thank you, Mr. Thomas, for showing up.
That would be, not no, but tell her.
What time is the meeting tomorrow night?
No.
Six.
6
I'm gonna watch online.
I might come up.
I'm calling it a home building tomorrow.
I'm coming as a, well, I'm gonna be here for both.
I'm coming for that film litigation.
I'm coming for it too.
Hey, did we, plan the next meeting?
Second Wednesday.
Second.
Second Wednesday.
That's,
Because it improves.
Are y'all meeting May 12th?
Unless we have another storm.
In your second.
That's our regular
May
meeting.
12th.
Go back to regular.
Just like.
All I gotta say is, last week, the only missing.
I'm very frustrated.
Oh, sure.